HQ this morning and nobody's here. I am the first one here. It is 8 a.m. and put it in the books. I'm the first one here. Oh, never mind that back. Luke just pulled up. The beans cannot handle frost at all, or very little if any. Corn can take a little bit. It was really cold and they may be in trouble, but they might just get burnt back and have to slow down their growth. It may kill some, but they can take a little cold here. But here we got Scott and Scotty pulling up, boy. What's up with the one duel, Scotty?
All right.
Explain to me.
These here are wedges that hold the duel in place.
Correct.
Well, they went to taking, they noticed that this one tire here had slipped out, which there's a gear right in there that you can
Adjust the
tire width.
And it come off?
No, it didn't come off. It slid out, and we was wanting to take the wedge off. And whenever we took the wedge off, it broke. The wedge broke. So then now we're having to wait on a new wedge.
We're waiting on the boss man this morning.
That spinach dish.
Scotty, how many layers you got on this morning?
1, 2, 3.
That's it?
3 layers. That's
3
it.
layers. I got 2. Got. Yeah, Scotty, he don't like the cold too much.
All right.
So Scott is herring up a field. Scotty's getting water for us to plant in a nurse tank. Luke's getting fertilizer in a different nurse tank. And I am picking up Dad to get the planter set up and going so that I can plant the Othapau field. We're planting beans over there. Now, I don't know, do you know why they call it the Othapau field? Was there somebody named Othapau that owned it?
Probably.
Yeah. We don't know the deal with that one, but I would assume it's probably somebody's last name or first name that owned it before us. So the update on the frost and the beans and the corn. The corn, Dad thinks is gonna be okay. It definitely burned it off. We had 400 acres up of corn. We had 160 acres of beans planted, but only 150 out of the ground, which I say only, that's most of it. And Dad thinks that every 150 of those is dead or gonna die. It may take a little while to kill them, but that's just how frost works. So that's not good. So we're gonna have to replant most likely 150 acres of beans. Shouldn't have to put startup nitrogen back, but we'll have to put back in some chemicals according to some people we talked to. So it's a costly, farming's a costly endeavor. There's 3 different screens here. We have our tractor just standard monitor. Now this is an older tractor, so it's not as high tech as some of the newer ones, but it's showing me my RPMs, which are very important, which I need to actually turn up a little bit. It's showing me the gear that I'm in. It's showing me my fuel, and it's showing me all my temperature gauges. Then our middle screen, with it is our Trimble GPS. So it's telling me how far off the center of the row I am. It allows me to adjust the trim. So if I need to adjust offset left or right a little bit because of a hill, I can do that on here. It also tells me my event coverage, how many acres I planted, which is also really important, so that everything we do after this, when we spread fertilizer, whenever we spray, whenever we're picking, it's in straight rows so they can easily get in and out of those rows. Our other screen here is our population count. And what it's doing is it's telling me how much seed per acre I'm putting out. And it's supposed to be around 86 is our average. And right now we're averaging anywhere from 82 to 89, which is good. That's about where we want to be. I need to trim over a little bit. So our back end is kind of easing this way because of this hill we're on like this. It's kind of easing us off that side. So I'm trying to trim it over to the left to kind of bring the planter back center. I'm trying to get the two tanks to be about the same. We got our fertilizer tank where we want it, which is putting out, it's a 150 gallon tank, and it's putting out 20 gallons every 0.86 acres, which is going to roughly get us at 7.5 acres per fill up. The other tank, however, was 20 gallons more when I got out and looked at them just now than our fertilizer tank, which means obviously its rate is not where we want it to be. So I adjust the pressure a little bit, as you saw, to try to kind of get those guys about the same, because we know our fertilizer is correct, so we want to get it to match with the chemical tank. Hey guys, so I'm commentating over the planting process again because it's a little too loud to commentate in the tractor, so this will be a lot clearer. Right now I'm getting in the row. I've already planted some, as you can tell if you look outside that window there, but it's really important that you get exactly in the center of the row. I mean, you're going to be off maybe an inch at most, a couple tenths of an inch with this GPS when you start out, but you really don't want to be more than an inch or so off, because that'll actually make your row really crooked, and that's vital to the whole process of the plant growing, is having straight rows, so that when you go down the rows with a spreader to spread fertilizer, or a sprayer to spray them, or a tiller to go through and till up the weeds in between them, it's really important that the rows are straight. So you see me backing up, pulling forward, you see me chewing on my tongue a lot. That's because I'm trying to get the GPS, and I keep looking down. That's because I'm looking at the GPS screen to make sure that my line's straight, because that's essentially what tells me, where I'm at on my line. It's just like a pilot reading his gauges versus looking out the window kind of thing. That's what I'm doing there. So now we're just planting. The planter's a 6-row planter. Normally we have a 12-row, but I'm using a 6-row because my dad is having to replant 150 acres that we lost to the cold, to the frost. And behind us there's two 150-gallon tanks. One has nitrogen, has our fertilizer, and then one has all the chemicals. So what we're planting today are snap beans. You could also call them just green beans. There's different varieties. I'm not exactly sure the particular number that this variety is, but our planting regimen here is around 86,000 seed to the acre. As far as our chemical and fertilizer mixtures, we're using Ultra Flourish at 4 ounces to the acre. We're using Arcadia 6 ounces to the acre, Maximus Root half a gallon to the acre, and our fertilizer tank is mostly just a nitrogen-based startup fertilizer mix. There's not any. We're trying to put out about 20 gallons to the acre. Right now, you can see kind of how it's planting. You can see the difference in the two different sides. The one side that's planted, the one side that is just the beds. And that's because the planter it pushes the bed down in the front and kind of makes an opening for the seed. So it's gonna push some dirt out to the side, and also cut a small slit into the ground so that the seed can easily fall into the place where it needs to go and not be ganged up by any weeds or any dirt that might have been in the way. That'll prevent all of that. It also allows for our in-furrow chemicals to go in-furrow with the seed. You can't put your fertilizer mixture on top of the seed because it could kill the germination of the seed. It would just be too much, what they call too hot on the plant like that. And we're not really going very fast. This is obviously sped up time lapse. I think I'm going 4 miles an hour. And all of this stuff is important because the speed, the RPMs, all of that, the pressure that you're putting out of your chemical and fertilizer tanks, all of that is related. So if you're going too fast or going too slow, and your pressures aren't adjusted for that, then that will affect everything. And planting a crop is the beginning of that crop's life. And if you mess that up, then that messes up the whole thing. Right now, I'm filling up the planter with seed again by myself. It takes a little while too when you're by yourself. I had a broke finger too, so I was kind of having trouble doing this. But filling up the planter, and then you're going to see me after I finish putting the seed in here. You're going to see me put in powder, and that is essentially just a talc powder. It's a seed lubricant that helps. Not only just helps the seed slide through the plant through the hoppers easier, but it also actually helps with static electricity, which is something I didn't know about until this year. But this was a 32 to 34 acre field. I think we ended up planting like 32 and a half acres, and it took me, started planting, probably got in the planter about 9 a.m. We had a couple issues that we had to kinks we had to work out, and it took me from probably about 9 a.m. I never stopped for lunch until I think right at 7 p.m. to finish planting. So luckily with the time change, it wasn't dark yet when I finished. But that just tells you, especially with a 6-row planter, how long it takes to actually plant a field that's that size.